Right, ladies and gents, this is your roundup of last weekend's Premier League games, but which 4 games stood out for the right and wrong reasons? So, starting in reverse order, at number 4, we have Tottenham 4, Everton 0. So that's 7 conceded for Everton without reply in their opening 2 games now. They're going to be looking to get their first points on the board at home to Bournemouth next week, but they'll need to avoid moments like the shocking mistake from Jordan Pickford that gave Spurs a 2-0 lead. It's not what you expect from the England man. We know he can be a little bit erratic, but he will not have been happy with letting in that goal. As for Spurs, however, their season is now up and running. Yves Bissouma's had a very up and down week or so. Footage emerged of him previously appearing to inhale laughing gas, which apparently cost him his place in the team last week. Ange Postecoglou brilliantly explained how you know what it's like when you punish your child and they do everything right for the next 2 days. Well, Bissouma rounded off his teacher's pet performance by crashing an excellent finish in off the bar to give Spurs the lead. There was also a promising debut in there by Wilson Odobert. It wasn't perfect, but early signs suggest that's a bit of smart business from Spurs. He looked very neat. He looked very tidy. And I think for the money that they brought him in for, Spurs have got a very good acquisition on their hands. The other big moment of the game, probably for me, the highlight of the game, was an amazing run from Mickey van der Ven to set up Son for the 4th. There are not many, if any, centre-backs out there, but especially in the Premier League, who can do something like that. Van der Ven and Romero really should be one of the best pairings out there. Maybe in the entire league, in Europe, perhaps the world, who knows. In at 3, Aston Villa 0, Arsenal 2. Although this was a fantastic result for Arsenal, Ollie Watkins stole the headlines with 2 big misses, which did ultimately change the course of the game. He slipped in by Morgan Rogers for the first, and 999 times out of 1,000, Ollie Watkins puts that in the back of the net and gives Aston Villa the lead in what is a really big game, even at this early stage of the season. And you can't miss those if you have big aspirations this year. But that is exactly what Ollie Watkins did, and a penalty would have been harder than this to score. And it was just such a massive chance to put Aston Villa a goal up. Now the second one wasn't as bad after Onana's deflected effort came back off the bar. It was a fantastic reaction save from David Raya, but there was a lot of goal for Watkins to hit, and that was another big chance wasted for Aston Villa to go 1-0 up. Watkins should have scored, but I have got to give Raya that credit because it was a fantastic reaction save. He got back up very quickly. There was a lot of goal for Watkins to find, though. A good finish from a very moody Trossard, if his celebration was anything to go by, following a fortunate break of the ball. And then a Partey shot that Martins really should have done much better with, gave Arsenal the win. If Villa can take any positives out of that game, apart from the fact there really should have been probably a couple of goals up, was the performance of Morgan Rogers, who was excellent taking the ball through the middle of the park. His strength and his running, at times it felt like Arsenal just couldn't cope with him. And as we were saying before about Odobert at Tottenham, the money Aston Villa paid for Morgan Rogers and what they're already getting out of him, that's a fantastic bit of business by Aston Villa. At number 2, Bournemouth 1, Newcastle 1. Chances for both teams. Semenyo, I thought, looked very good for Bournemouth. Harvey Barnes looked good when he came on for Newcastle. However, there were 2 undisputed main talking points from the game, and it was these 2 talking points really which elevated this into number 2 in our countdown. Now, the first one was where Utaro was judged to have handled the ball. This was deemed apparently a factual handball, and it would have given Bournemouth a massive victory. This decision by the referee seemed to fly in the face of us being told that the game wasn't going to be re-refereed this season, and referee's call was going to be a big thing. This was anything but a factual decision. There's been a lot of, back and forth out there between different fans, some saying you can't give that, no way. I've seen people try to argue that it definitely came off the arm, but the fact that there's even an argument about this when people have seen multiple different angles, Just the fact that argument's out there makes this a non-factual decision. It is not a fact that the ball came off Utara's arm. And the game, that decision has ended up being re-refereed. We were told that wasn't going to happen this season. There isn't a general consensus, and I personally can't believe that decision was given. I think Bournemouth have been very hard done by there. Another incident which was equally controversial, perhaps, maybe slightly less so, maybe slightly more so. It depends on it. That's viewers' choice, really. Joelinton channeled his inner Bradshaw with an epic clothesline on Neto, but no red card was given. So what's the consensus out there? Well, I think the consensus is pretty much that Joelinton should have seen red. I can see, if I squint really hard, I can see the argument that Joelinton was just trying to stop the goalkeeper releasing the ball early. And maybe the fact that he made a strong contact with the goalie's neck was just a coincidence. It was just an accident. Saying it out loud, it feels less and less plausible. I think most games, if that happened in most games, you would expect to see a red card. But Joelinton did manage to avoid a red card. Newcastle did manage to avoid a defeat. And the game ended Bournemouth 1, Newcastle 1. In at number 1, I would like this to be a big shock and a big surprise. It's not going to be. You all know what this game is. It's Wolves 2, Chelsea 6, including a Noni Madueke hat-trick. And I'm laughing because it just had to be Noni Madueke. Now, going into the game, Madueke had said about Wolverhampton, by accident, of course, everything about this place is shit. And that is such a great way to set up the game, to create a little sort of side narrative. And, you know, Wolves, Chelsea, that's not a fixture people, I think, generally will look out for at the start of the season. You know, I don't think it's one that's going to get too many people excited, but maybe now Noni Madueke has made this an event forever going forwards. So what happened next after Noni made those comments? Well, as we just said, he went and scored a hat-trick, including 3 assists from Cole Palmer. A fantastic performance from one of England's stars of the summer, I guess. There was a goal for Jackson in there too, and a re-debut goal for Harry Felix. Things definitely looking up for Chelsea, despite the craziness that's going on behind the scenes with their many, many players and their sort of almost second squad, which are still looking for a home with only a couple of days left to go with the transfer window. They've managed to do their talking on the pitch. There were positives for Wolves as well too. They actually had a higher, so I don't know how this happened, they actually had a higher XG than Chelsea, for those of you who, you know, put a lot behind XG. Yeah, it was a higher expected goals tally of 1.92 than Chelsea's 1.56. They yet lost 6-2. Absolutely puzzling, but that is what happened. And Noni Madueke was very much the hero for Chelsea and definitely the villain as far as Wolves were concerned. Now, we're just going to have a quick look and round up of the other games of the day which didn't make the list. So, first of all, Liverpool 2, Brentford 0. Comfortable win for Liverpool. It's their first home game of the season and they're taking to life under Arne Slot pretty well so far. A great finish from Diaz on the counter and a vintage finish from Mo Salah 2. Manchester City 4, Ipswich 1. Ipswich, they'll take heart that they managed to land a blow on City, but they just ended up angering the beast. And if anything is inevitable in the Premier League, of course, it's Erling Haaland hitting the back of the net. And he picked up another hat-trick to add to his collection of hat-tricks. Crystal Palace 0, West Ham 2. Palace will be wondering how they've managed to not pick up any points so far. They had their chances again. Eze was very unlucky with an amazing shot which came back off the crossbar in particular. But 2 good counter-attacking goals from West Ham gave them their first points of the season. A very promising cameo from Aaron Wan-Bissaka in there as well. Fulham 2, Leicester 1. Emile Smith-Rowe's first non-friendly goal for Fulham. He did pretty well in pre-season too. Helped them on their way to 3 points. Although it was Alex Iwobi who wrapped things up after Wout Fass's equaliser. Southampton 0, Forest 1. So in a game where Southampton actually had 65% of the ball, Forest actually had 23 shots to Southampton's 5. However, ultimately, it was just the one Morgan Gibbs-White goal that separated the two teams. 2 1-0 defeats in a row for the Saints now. and an unbeaten start for Forest. Now, some of these teams who want in Europe, I imagine, are going to be hoping that they will change their fortunes in the Carabao Cup midweek fixtures. There are some going on right now at the moment. And last I looked, Everton were winning. So that's going to hopefully give the Toffees a little bit of a lift. Now, Brighton 2, United 1. As I'm hoping you know by now, that was discussed in our You Only Come to Hear United pod. So you can check out the link here. And if you like what you listen to, please give us a like and a subscribe. Thank you all for listening. I'm sure we'll be back very soon with a chat to round up the transfers and the transfer window that's coming to an end on Friday. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you all soon.